Here are some problems that require some real algebra skills to solve. And you might be used to algebra problems where you solve for a letter like x and everything else is a number, and you're probably used to dealing with that. In this case, we've got all letters and we're solving for a particular one. Well, you don't really have to think of this as any harder than what you were doing before with letters and numbers. We just leave the letters as they are and treat them as if they were numbers. We do the same things we would do as if these were numbers. It says solve for f. What that means is we want to get f alone on one side of the equation. When f is alone on one side of the equation, we can stop, and that's our answer. In this case, we got to get rid of this negative e over here. To get rid of a negative e, think about what you would do if that was a minus 1. Well, you would add 1. So in this case, we're going to add e. Negative e plus e is 0. That leaves just f on that side of the equation. But we have to do the same thing to both sides of the equation, so we add e over here. We get f equals dx plus e, and you're done. So that wasn't so hard. Let's look at a harder one. This one says solve for n. So we want to get n alone on this side of the equation. And right now, the thing that's being done to n is it's being multiplied by m. So we have to undo that by doing the opposite. Opposite of multiplying is dividing. So we divide by m, but we have to do the same thing to both sides of the equation. When I divide by m over here, the m's cancel, leaving n alone. And over here, well, we can't really do anything with it, so the answer is just n equals k divided by m, or k over m. And you're done. That's not really so hard either. It just takes some getting used to. This one is a little harder. It says solve for y, and we have w equals x plus y over y. So you've got two y's going on, which seems a little strange. Well, let's take it one step at a time. When you see a problem like this, where you have a fraction, you want to try to get rid of the fraction first. So what I'm going to do is multiply both sides by y first. So y times w is just going to be yw. This whole thing divided by, or multiplied by y, well, this y and this y are going to cancel out. It's like you're dividing by y and then multiplying y. It's like you're undoing it. So that disappears and just leaves what's on top of the fraction, x plus y. Now the next step here, because we're trying to solve for y, is we want to get the y's on one side of the equation. So to do that, I'm going to subtract y from this side of the equation and from this side of the equation. Now when you subtract y, you can't subtract it from the yw. This is a whole different term. Yw is different from y. So when we write this, it's just yw minus y. Can't do anything else with it. And on this side, a positive y and a negative y come out to be 0, so it's like they cancel, and now we've got x. Sort of looks like I've solved for x here. But I've got one final trick, and that is I'm going to regroup this. I'm going to pull out a y. Because there's a y multiplied by each term here, in this case y is multiplied by w, and in this case y is actually multiplied by negative 1. So I'm thinking about it like this. Y times w and negative 1 times y. Now I can rewrite that like this, y times w minus 1. That's pretty tricky, but if you think about it, if you were to see this parentheses and want to multiply it through, you would multiply the y times the w and the y times the negative 1. You would end up with yw minus y, which is exactly what it was to start with. So I can do this. Don't forget my equals and x over here. Now, finally, I've got a single y in this equation, which is why I did that. It's multiplied by a parentheses w minus 1. So I want to undo that by dividing by parentheses w minus 1. Those will cancel, leaving y alone. Whoops. But I have to do that to the same side, to the same thing to the other side. So I get y equals x over w minus 1. That's a very tricky one.